All right, so buckle up, everybody. We're diving into the world of the Temple of the Blacklight, TOTBL for short.
This should be interesting.
You want the inside scoop on this group, and honestly, so do we. It's like we found this, hidden chapter ripped right out of their own little rule book.
Yeah.
And it's got us scratching our heads a little. They're supposed to be this super secret, closed-off group, right?
Right.
So why leave this trail of breadcrumbs?
Yeah, it's a fascinating tactic, isn't it? It's kind of like leaving a single candle lit in a dark room.
Oh, yeah.
You can't help but be drawn to it. And this document, it doesn't feel like some kind of recruitment pamphlet. It's more like a glimpse into their actual philosophy, a system they call chaos Gnosticism.
Chaos Gnosticism. Okay, I like the sound of that already. Lay it on me.
Okay, well, imagine taking those ancient Babylonian myths, like the story of Tiamat, the chaos dragon, and you blend it with, say, elements of Jewish Kabbalah.
Oh, well.
It's a pretty heady mix.
Yeah.
And TOTBL, they add their own little twists, their own little spin on it. You see, while traditional Gnosticism, it's all about seeking knowledge to kind of escape the material world, to reconnect with, the divine, TOTBL flips the script completely.
Oh, okay, now you've got my attention. How so? How do they flip it?
Well, for them, chaos is not something to fear.
Okay.
It's not something you try to escape. Chaos is the ultimate liberation. Order, on the other hand, that's the cage. That's what limits true freedom. They see chaos as this primal wellspring of existence, the essence, as they call it.
Okay, so we're not talking about, everyday chaos here. It's not like leaving your dishes in the sink is some kind of revolutionary act.
No. It's much grander than that. They're operating on a symbolic level. This document really stresses that these words, these names they're using, these are simply tools,
Oh, I see, yeah.
to try to point us toward concepts that our limited human minds can barely grasp.
So when they talk about things like, black light or dark gods, they're not being literal.
Precisely.
It's more like, what? A code to crack?
Exactly. Take the example of the 3 dark veils, right?
Yeah.
In traditional Gnosticism, they represent these stages of spiritual ignorance, these barriers between us and the divine. But TOTBL, they reimagine them as tohu, which is chaos, bohu, emptiness, and then chesek, darkness. And all of this ultimately leads to their guiding force.
Yeah.
The black light.
Black light. So it's like the opposite of what we'd expect. It's like they're saying, forget logic, just embrace the unknown.
And that, in essence, is their core message. They're challenging everything we think we know about reality, where traditional Gnostics might see a creator deity, a demiurge. TOTBL sees the black light.
Okay.
A force beyond creation, beyond our limited understanding.
So we're dealing with a group that thrives on turning traditional thought completely on its head.
Yes.
This is already feeling less like some kind of club and more like a complete upending of how we even view the world.
Exactly.
And this document, it's like they just give us this crash course in their own, twisted mythology.
Right.
It's like they're giving us this VIP tour of their own personal rogues gallery.
Exactly, yeah. They're diving into figures like Lucifer, Lilith, Beelzebuth,
Right.
Names that send chills down most people's spines, right?
Yeah.
But remember, TOTBL, they're always cautioning us against taking these labels, these names, at face value.
Right. Challenging assumptions, like always. So how do they reinterpret these figures? Well, let's start with, Lucifer. He's a big deal.
To say the least, yeah, Lucifer. TOTBL, they don't present him as, the embodiment of pure evil.
Okay.
He's more like, you could say, this kind of rebellious knowledge giver, like Prometheus, right?
Yeah.
But instead of stealing fire from the gods, he's offering us this forbidden knowledge that challenges the established order.
Interesting. So instead of fearing Lucifer, they kind of see him as, a liberator of sorts.
In a way, yeah, absolutely. He embodies their core belief in questioning everything, even if it means going against the grain, defying the powers that be. It really begs the question, do they see themselves as these modern day Prometheans, entrusted with knowledge that, most people just aren't ready for?
Ooh, that's a good question. It definitely adds to that, air of mystery surrounding them. What about Lilith? She's having a bit of a moment lately, it seems.
Lilith is particularly intriguing, yeah. TOTBL, they move beyond that kind of traditional seductress portrayal of her. She's more like this primal force, deeply, deeply connected to chaos.
What?
Imagine this. They describe her holding a noose with a child in it.
Okay, now that's a powerful image.
Yeah.
I mean, to say the least. How do you interpret that?
Well, it's about rebellion, but it's on a cosmic scale, you know?
Right.
Lilith, for them, she embodies a rejection of this imposed order, these societal structures. They believe these structures stifle our true nature.
Yeah.
She represents the raw, untamed energy that, for them, is truly liberating.
It's interesting because they've chosen these incredibly, like, potent figures. I mean, they're often misunderstood to illustrate their whole philosophy.
Yeah.
It's like they're reclaiming them, giving them a whole new meaning.
Absolutely. It reminds us that these ancient myths, these archetypes, they still hold power for us, even today.
Yeah.
They tap into something primal, something deep within us, something that resonates with these ideas of chaos, of rebellion, and this search for truth beyond, the accepted norms.
And speaking of going beyond accepted norms, there's this whole section in this document, and it feels almost like a how-to manual, like a practical guide to interacting with these forces.
Right.
It's a bit jarring, to be honest, to go from abstract philosophy to, like, step one, do this.
Yeah, it is a stark shift in tone. You're right. And it's here that we really need to tread carefully,
Okay.
Because while the document does outline rituals, ingredients, even like how to craft specific tools, it's so important to remember context is key.
Right.
Without a deep understanding of their system, attempting any of these practices could be really misguided, maybe even dangerous.
It's like they're handing you this, like, book of matches next to a gasoline-soaked pile of wood,
Right.
And they're like, be careful with this, but also, like, maybe light something on fire.
Yeah, it's a powerful analogy, and it's pretty fitting, I think, because this section, it really gets into the specifics, the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
They're talking about, like, the creation of this 11-angled sigil.
Right.
And this ritual, they call it the sacrifice of the 11 flames.
Right.
Both of these, they clearly hold a lot of weight in their practices. And the number 11, if you remember, it's central to their whole belief system.
Right. Their universe B, as they call it, governed by the number 11, the absence of cause and effect.
Yeah.
So are these rituals like attempts to tap into that chaotic energy?
It's definitely possible.
To influence this universe B?
Yeah, I mean, the document even suggests that simply reading these instructions could have some kind of effect, although it's very vague about what that effect might actually be.
Okay, see, now I'm feeling a little uneasy. It's like they're saying this document itself, it's like a form of ritual.
Yeah.
A way of, like, spreading your influence. But why? I mean, why even go to all this trouble if they're not actively trying to, recruit new members?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It all circles back to that initial puzzle. Why make any of this public at all?
Right.
There's a clear intentionality here, even if we don't know the desired outcome. Maybe it's like a form of ideological seeding, just scattering their beliefs to the wind and seeing where they take root.
So they're looking for people who are already, like, predisposed to this way of thinking.
Exactly.
People who, they stumble upon this document and they're like, whoa, this speaks to me.
Yeah, individuals who really resonate with this idea of chaos as liberation, who feel stifled by, the constraints of conventional thought. This document with its imagery, these challenging ideas, it's like a beacon,
Right.
drawing them in.
It's like a trail of breadcrumbs leading to this, like, hidden door. You have to be looking for it to even know it's there, but once you see it,
right,
you can't unsee it.
Exactly. You can't unsee it. That's a great way to put it. But we do have to consider other possibilities, too.
Okay, yeah, like what?
This could be a misdirection, a way of making their beliefs seem more fringe, more out there than they actually are.
A smokescreen. Okay.
Yeah, so while everyone's all caught up talking about dark gods and chaotic rituals, they're free to do whatever they're really doing under the radar.
So after all of this, we've got, I think, more questions than answers. Are they just these esoteric philosophers content to just throw their ideas out there? Are they masterminds playing this, like, deep game of deception? Or is it something else entirely?
That's the thing, isn't it? The truth is probably somewhere in between. This Temple of the Black Light, it's still this enigma, this puzzle box of intrigue, with these unsettling implications. And this document, it gives us this tiny peek behind the curtain, but that full picture, still totally elusive.
Well, there you have it, listeners. We've gone deep into the strange and honestly unsettling world of TOTBL. We've dug into their beliefs, tried to wrap our heads around their motivations, but one thing's for sure. This is a group obsessed with turning everything we think on its head. And whatever their impact is going to be, subtle or not, it's going to be felt.
It really makes you think, you know? The world is full of these mysteries, these groups with ideas that just operate on the fringes of what we think we understand. And whether TOTBL ends up being a sign of, like, you know, enlightenment or something a little darker, well, only time will tell.
Until then, everybody, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and as always, stay curious.